Greetings, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of the Breath of Fresh Air webcast on YouTube. I am Charles Taylor, and I am by myself for this episode. Patrick Brackett should be back with me on the Thursday show. So it's just a quick roundup of the NFL events that have happened over the past weekend, and I guess in the last couple of days. So let's start off with the action from last weekend. And uh, where can we start? I mean, a lot happened. Of course, the New York Giants beat the Dallas Cowboys 10-7. So this is a big win for the Giants. They go to 9-4. And the Cowboys fall to 11-2. More on that in a minute. Uh, Also, New England, they go to 11-2. The Patriots defeated the Baltimore Ravens on Monday night, 30-23. Uh, these guys, they just keep on doing what they do. No Rob Gronkowski in the mix. A lot of people was wondering how New England would carry on without one of their biggest weapons, if not the biggest weapon in the league. How they would carry on with them. Well, as New England does, they just keep rolling. Tom Brady just keeps on doing what he does. And to be honest, if that game, if the Patriots didn't have the two special teams mistakes, the mishandled punt, and the fumble kickoff, the game probably wouldn't have been as close as it was. But as it stands, New England won 30-23. They move on to 11-2, first place in the NFC, or excuse me, not the NFC, the AFC. One game ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders. The Chiefs beat the Raiders 21-13 back on Thursday night to take over possession of the first place. They both have the same record, but since Kansas City beat Oakland twice, they get the tiebreaker. Pittsburgh beat Buffalo. I think Le'Veon Bell is still running for yardage in that game. Had 236 yards, 3 touchdowns in a 27-20 win over Buffalo. And in Buffalo, Rex Ryan's on the hot seat. There was a lot of speculation saying he was going to get fired or he may get fired. Nobody knows as of yet. As of now, he's still the coach. But I would be surprised if he did stay on past this season. The Lions, Detroit, they continue to roll on 20-17. They're 9-4. 2 games ahead of both the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers for first place in the NFC North. But Detroit's schedule, very tough to finish out. At New York to play the Giants, at Dallas on the 26th of December, and they finish the season against Green Bay. If things fall the way it may, that game will be for the division title on the last weekend of the regular season. Should be something interesting to watch. But Detroit playing well. Matthew Stafford, the quarterback, he looks like an MVP candidate. I don't know if he will win the MVP, but he definitely should get consideration when you consider all the fourth quarter comebacks he has had. Let's see what else happened over the weekend. Oh, Green Bay. Going back to Green Bay, they destroyed Seattle 30 38-10. They destroyed. They won that game in Lambeau Field. Green Bay looking like the team we've been expecting to see all year. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's starting to round back into form. And Seattle, I know they were missing Earl Thomas, the free safety in that game, but my goodness, if he would have played, it probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference. And Russell Wilson had 5 interceptions. His receivers did not help him, but 5 interceptions for Russell Wilson. And let's see, was there anything else? Anything else I'm forgetting? Oh, Atlanta and Tampa Bay. So those two teams are tied for first place in the NFC South at 8-5. Atlanta destroyed the Los Angeles Rams. More on the Rams in a minute. But Atlanta jumped on the Rams 42-0, ended up winning the game 42-14. Tampa Bay grinded out a win over New Orleans 16-11. So again, Tampa Bay, they're rolling. They played 5 in a row, or they've won 5 in a row, but they have a tough game coming up Sunday night in Dallas against the Cowboys. So speaking of the Cowboys, as we know, they lost 10-7 to the New York Giants, and they are 11-2, both losses to the Giants. It's crazy living in this area, living in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, how quickly fans can forget what has happened in the past. It's funny how quickly they'll say their team is ready to go to the Super Bowl after a couple of wins. And it's also crazy how they are willing to just change everything after a loss. So the big talk about what to go or what to do moving forward is whether or not Dak Prescott should be benched for Tony Romo. Can we please look, Cowboys fans, please pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. It's okay. I'm sure there are 30 other teams, with the exception of the New England Patriots, who would love to be where y'all are at right now. You guys are 11-2, still with a 2-game lead over the Giants in the NFC East, and a win pretty much guarantees they will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But it's crazy to think Tony Romo could come back in there after one loss. They won 11 in a row with Dak Prescott in there. Now, some of these fans are ready to bench Dak Prescott and get Tony Romo in there. Well, if they saw the game, all that stuff was not Dak's fault. First of all, Dez Bryant, he seemed not into the game at all. At all. I mean, he was slipping on routes. He had a crucial fumble at the end of the game to pretty much seal the game, seal the win for the Giants. And there was some miscommunication on a deep route, which led to a Giants interception. So the receivers, for the most part, did not help them. I, I have to give all the credit, honestly, to the Giants, because the Giants defense was aggressive. They came with a lot of blitzes, and they really had Dak Prescott confused. Those games happen from time to time to even the elite quarterbacks. Tom Brady has had them. Aaron Rodgers has had them. When Peyton Manning was in his prime, he had them. Quarterbacks go through games where it doesn't seem like things are going to go right. It happens from time to time. For Dak Prescott to be hearing, if he's listening, to be hearing all the talk about him getting benched, that's crazy. It's beyond laughable to me. And it doesn't help when Jerry Jones comes on to the radio stations here and says, "Hey, well, we'll see what happens when it happens." It's almost like he's inviting the chance for Tony Romo to come back in, and if Dak Prescott struggles, I mean, I wouldn't agree with it, but I can see a scenario where Tony Romo does come on back. I don't think it should happen. I think you stick with what got you to this point. They won 11 in a row with Dak Prescott's good play and Ezekiel Elliott running the ball. In the game against the Giants, Ezekiel Elliott had 24 carries. So I can't even fault the play calling, really, because as you hear on this show a lot, when Patrick and I get into some debates, and even when Stan comes on here, we say running backs, good running backs, should get 20 to 25 carries. Ezekiel Elliott had 24. What I didn't like is Ezekiel Elliott being on the bench at the end of the game in favor of Lance Dunbar. And Jason Garrett, he was also on the radio stations, and I'm paraphrasing here, pretty much saying Lance is very good in the passing situations and very good as a receiver out of the backfield. I get that, but if you have an MVP candidate back there in the backfield, he needs to be out there on the field at all costs. It's money time. Your team is down 10-7. A win gives you the division title. Why Ezekiel Elliott is not out there is it's crazy to me. That man needs to be out there on the field. It's not like he's no good in passing situations. I do remember him taking the screen pass 88 yards to the house against the Steelers earlier this year. So I think he can hold his own. He is definitely an all-around back, and he should be in the game at money time. And back to Dez Bryant, I heard a fan call in just to tell you how some of these Cowboys fans are. I heard a fan say Dez Bryant it should potentially be traded. Yeah, how crazy is that? Dez Bryant should be traded. Look, when Antonio Brown has a subpar game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't hear Steelers fans saying Antonio Brown needs to be traded. I don't hear Giants fans saying Odell Beckham needs to be traded after a couple of subpar games. Remember, he struggled at the beginning of the year. I also don't remember seeing Atlanta Falcons fans talking about they need to trade Julio Jones after a bad game. I don't understand why Cowboys fans are ready to just have the sky fall after a loss. This is crazy. Again, pump the brake, Cowboys fans. Everything will be okay. They're 11-2. Just need to come on back and see what you do against Tampa Bay and Detroit. And then you finish out the season at Philadelphia. The Cowboys are fine. They're fine. Well, moving on to the last topic here. I mentioned the Atlanta Falcons beat the Los Angeles Rams 42-14. The Rams with another putrid performance on offense. Jared Goff, 3 picks. One I'm for sure was taken back to the house. And it led to the firing of head coach Jeff Fisher. Now, if you've been listening to the show, we have said it was probably time for Jeff Fisher to go. Well, probably months ago, if not 2-3 years ago. The man has been mediocre pretty much through his whole career, and I think he's tied with Dan Reeves for the most losses as a head coach in NFL history. I don't understand how Jeff Fisher made it this long, but this was the situation that could say, yeah, it's time for him to go. First of all, the offense wasn't getting anything going, and the play calling is awful. When you have Jared Goff throwing the ball 41 times a game, and you have a beast a beast of a running back in Todd Gurley who's only getting 13, 14 carries a game. That's disgusting. That is horrible. I thought the best friend of a quarterback, especially a quarterback who is in his rookie season, is a running game. You have a man in Todd Gurley who, if I remember right, was seen on Hard Knocks pretty much getting quarterback treatment, wearing the red jersey and stuff. And now you're not using them. That's awful. Makes no sense to me. But it cost Jeff Fisher his job. And this is the situation I'm talking about right here. You may be able to get away with being mediocre in St. Louis. Nothing against the fans in St. Louis, but it's just not the situation that you're going to see in Los Angeles. There are a lot of expectations all the time. And unless you're the Lakers, because Los Angeles is a Laker town, unless you're the Lakers and to a lesser extent the Dodgers, if you're not winning, they will not support you. You will see a lot of empty seats in stadiums and arenas all over that city. They will go to the beach, they will go to clubs, they will do whatever else there is to do in Los Angeles besides going to one of those games. Remember all the hype when the Rams came to Los Angeles and how packed that stadium was in the first game against the Seattle Seahawks? Well, now half of those seats are empty, half of them. And if they're not winning, then there's going to be some changes made. Those fans will speak out, and the stars will speak out as well. Just hear Eric Dickerson. And there will be changes being made if things are not going well. This is what happened to Jeff Fisher. You put a mediocre product on the field. Well, it's not even mediocre. It's a bad product, very bad product. As Todd Gurley had said, middle school offense in an NFL, in the professional of the professional leagues out there. So it was time for a change. Jeff Fisher just was not getting the best out of the team. And you could just kind of tell on the field, it looked like they quit out there against the Falcons. It just looked bad all the way around, and it was time for changes to be made. And now it just depends on what the ownership wants to do, but you better believe they're trying to get somebody who could spice it up, some coach who has a lot of star power. It's Los Angeles. Of course they're looking for that. So we'll see what happens. At the end of the season, the Rams play at Seattle on Thursday night, probably another loss. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Rams coaching search and who they bring in. So with that, that's it. That is it. A shorter version of the Breath of Fresh Air webcast on YouTube. Hopefully Patrick will be back with me Thursday night. And a lot of the stuff I was saying, he pretty much agreed with. It's crazy. I had a talk with them yesterday about all this. So you will hopefully see him on Thursday night. Until then, check the show out. Facebook, Google Plus, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're on all those networks. Go ahead, leave your comments, leave feedback. Let me know how we're doing. And we look forward to seeing you. Take care.